are you now a bit more secure about the subject? Are you more sure about whether death is, an all-pervasive full stop, or whether it's not something so much to be worried about after all?
Yes.
Your turn to speak.
Well, I don't talk like that. I communicate, I converse.
Yes, okay.
And if I did do a little monologue, I think the other person would have a much clearer understanding of the point I was trying to make than, with all due respect, I find myself in possession of, having listened carefully to what you had to say there.
Okay.
So maybe, do you want to just try it again?
Okay.
Yep.
Do you believe that anything happens after death?
I don't know.
Right.
Right.
Sorry?
Nothing. You went right, so I went, yep, right.
Okay.
So, no, I don't know.
So would you, the best I can do for you, which is the best I can do for you, is that I know for certainty, through my own life experience, that very much that there's no such thing as that. Well, I suppose death is a dramatic change in life, but it's not an end to life. So that I think people. My concern is that people are very, very worried.
How can you have clear thoughts in your mind if you have, if I may say so, such a cluttered way of expressing yourself externally?
Well, I've been doing my very best. I didn't mean to be cluttered, so I'll, try not to be cluttered. Sorry about being cluttered.
You see,
I'm not as practiced as to the matter as you possibly are.
Well, what makes you think then that your opinion is something that I want?
I've no idea that you would want it. I've no idea that you might want it.
No. You can't actually do anything about the fact that you don't know what happens when we die. It's the biggest question we all ask ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because from it, we gain our ideas about what we might do with our lives whilst we are here, and we have to assume that we are here.
Well, what do you mean? We have to assume that we are here. What do you mean by that?
You have to accept that, because again, even that can't be proven.
Right. I'm not a great believer in proof and evidence. I don't believe. I believe that sort of a romantic appreciation and intuition is more important in many ways than proof and evidence.
Yes, I agree. But the fact of the matter is, you can't prove you're here, even.
Well.
So you have to assume that you're here.
Yeah.
So we go on making lots and lots of assumptions, and basically, as long as we're contented, reasonably contented, and occasionally allow ourselves.
I don't think contentment is the most important thing, though. Do you?
Yes.
But I think this is I suppose this wasn't what I phoned up about, but I suppose this is what my concern is that it's important that people are concerned about.
What's more important than contentment, then?
That the fight continues.
I haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Well, can I be more specific about it?
No. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you know at all ever what you mean?
Well, as best as I can do. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I know exactly what I mean.
Okay. Well, I'll be as exact as I can do on that point then.
And I have got that.
Can I be as exact on that point as I can be?
And when I say that contentment,
yeah,
right, is the most important state,
right,
to spend as much of your life in.
But what if you were content in? Do
you mind if I finish a sentence?
Yeah, sure.
I think one of your problems is that you actually move on to another thought before you have internalized the end of another sentence.
No, I don't. Well, yeah, okay,
yeah.
Go on.
I'm right, aren't I?
No, go on. I'm not, I don't socialise an awful lot, as you might guess. I'm one of these lonely conspiracy theorists that you don't like to have on the phone. But
nobody said I don't like to have different people on the phone. I like to have everybody on the phone. Everybody.
Well, which means I don't have a great, vast, expansive social skills like you have.
It's not your social skills I'm talking about. It's the way in which you think that interests me.
Right.
No, you're just looking at the way in which you think, aren't you?
No, I've heard you do this to other people, so I know that if I say something first, then
yes, whatever.
You'll say you can't bear a silence.
Do you know? Oh, I love silences.
Yeah, so do I. I love it. Yeah.
Right. Do you know how you think?
Do I know how to think? I mean, how the brain works. Do you mean?
No. In what is your method of thinking?
I'm constantly surprised by what I think by every moment.
You're surprised by what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I recommend then you try thinking linguistically rather than pictorially.
I don't think pictorially because I specifically do not think pictorially. I must say.
If the way in which you speak is the way in which you think, then it's going to be difficult for you to persuade us of any of your opinions because they're likely to be a little disjointed. Because your form of expression happens to be a little disjointed, possibly because you're in a phone box. And possibly because, you know, it's a different experience for you, and I take 30 or 40 or 50 calls a show, so I'm on home ground. I'm aware of those things, but nevertheless, it's a phone-in program, and all you've got is your ability to articulate something, and I'm still not quite sure what it is that you really wanted to say when you got to your phone box.
Shall I try and get to the point then?
Yeah.
That we don't die when we die. And I know that for a fact.
No, look, you have to stop there because you can't say that. It becomes a parent-child conversation with me treating you like a naive imbecile if I allow you, and I'm not going to patronise you by letting you get away with that because you cannot say you know that.
Well, I do know that because of experience.
No, you cannot say that you know that.
How can you say that you cannot say that?
Because you cannot be certain about anything, never mind about something.
Well, all right, I know there's as much as you're certain about the fact that you are who you are, sort of thing, you know.
No, you can't be certain.
I mean, if you can't, you know, I mean, okay.
You can't be certain
Yeah.
about things that you have to suppose are certain. So how can you be certain about something which all of mankind knows is uncertain?
Well, it's not a matter of all of mankind. I think that I may be in a very, very small minority, and I know that because I've investigated my situation to a certain extent and got in contact with organisations who would be likely to know other people who might know people who are in the same situation as myself, and they don't know. You know, I mean, I'm talking about people like the Hearing Voices Network and the Schizophrenic Society. People like that, you know, one would imagine, or one would assume, who would be in touch with people who were in a similar situation. But in fact, they've written back to me and said that we don't know anybody who's in a similar situation to you. So I'm in the situation of you know, calling somebody like yourself, and but I'm also very confident of my position. I'm not.
Well, you know something then that will be a greater source of comfort to you than all the cleverness and all the precision that we. That folk like, naive, vain folk like me cling to as our source of identity. You know that you're going to live forever, and so good luck to you. We all envy you. We do. And thank you for your call from the phone box in Kingston. Colin, Alex is mobile near Gravesend. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, Tommy. Thanks for getting me on the show. Bit controversial. Don't know whether you want to comment on it or not, but I think, like many people in this country, I'm feeling very angry inside at the moment about this situation over the naming of paedophiles and things like that. I'm just astonished that, you know, we're even having the conversation. Why are we letting the people out? Why aren't we keeping them locked up? I don't understand. You can't change these people. It's made within them. They are going to do what they do because it's part of their makeup. You can't correct these people. To let them out again is inviting them to do it again. And I don't know. I'm sort of, it just hets me up.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 3 kids, and
Yeah.
I live in the countryside, and
Okay, but besides being a parent and having to endure the awful imaginations of how it might be if something like that were to touch your family, we can't avoid doing that as parents, can we? I do it.
no, you can't avoid it.
At the same time as putting ourselves through that torture, let's put ourselves through the lesser torture of being the Home Secretary or a High Court judge or a parole officer.
Yeah.
Okay? And blimey, you got a loud clock there.
That's my indicator.
Oh, is it? Oh, you pulled in, have you?
I've pulled in.
I'm glad you have. Okay, well, turn your indicator off, put your hazard lights on. Anyway, now, one of the things that you've said slightly surprises me, because when you say that people who have committed these sex offences of this kind, all right, cannot control themselves and cannot change,
Yeah.
it seems to me that you may well be overlooking an enormous number of men in this country and around the world who are born with the curse of having this sexuality and make a no doubt difficult but successful conscious effort not to take action with it.
Yeah.
And we don't know how many.
No, we don't. But if they don't take action with it, then you're never going to know, are you? And if they never do it in their lives, then they're not committing a crime. And if they've got the discipline not to do it, then that's fine. But once you commit it, once you've done it, you can't afford to let these people back out.
No, but hang on, you made a jump there. If we work logically through what we know, we have to accept, I think, that there are a great many people, and it must be an awful curse to wake up at the age of 7 or 11 or however old you are and discover that instead of falling in love with beautiful ladies, or indeed instead of falling in love with beautiful men, which is more or less acceptable nowadays,
Yeah.
you're stuck with this outrage. It's how you are, it's how you're born.
Yeah, it's a genetic. It's you know.
We don't know.
Well, no, we don't. But in my opinion, it's the only thing that I can seem to find reason for. But it's got to be genetic. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But you know,
it does matter, because there are people who think it's chosen and learned. It does matter. Whilst as long as there are people who believe that sexual direction is a matter of choice, it does matter, because you, like me, and I think those who have given this some thought would all agree, it could hardly conceivably be a matter of choice. How could it be?
I don't.
So when you say it doesn't matter, I take issue with it. I think it does matter.
No. I think, you know. I mean, it just frustrates me because, I mean, I'm living out in a village in Kent, and we had an attack recently in the village, and it just, you know, you try and move your kids somewhere safe. There isn't anywhere safe. But you know, they've said whether they're true figures or not. I think they sound fairly realistic. They reckon there's one for every square mile of this country. There's enough danger. There's enough things to worry about with the roads and everything else.
Hey, calm down. We're on the radio here. It's not two blokes talking rubbish at the back of the pub. Calm down and stop giving people nonsense to think about. You reckon it's right that there's one per every square mile, when a few moments ago you're saying that you're not sure that there's anybody out there who suffers from this thing who's never tried it? Be consistent. Is there... What number of people are there, do you suppose, in this country who are cursed with this sexual direction, then?
You don't know, do you?
Well, you just quoted one for every square mile.
I'm saying that was something I said, I don't know whether that's true. I find that potentially believable.
OK, find it potentially believable, then, and trace it back to something that you said about people not finding it possible to control these urges, because if there is an enormous number of people, disproportionately large number of people, if there are far more people who are stuck with this nightmare, who are controlling it, then your argument that they can't control it doesn't work. And then your argument that they should be locked up as soon as it's found out that that's their sexual direction, also doesn't work.
No, I'm not saying that, Tommy. I'm saying those that have committed it, those that have, those people who have hurt a child, why on earth do we want to try to... Okay, you've got to try and correct them, you've got to try and help it, but you can't let them out. It's too dangerous.
What you and I are not able to talk about, I don't want to talk about it, it wouldn't do any good to talk about. But nevertheless, all of us on our own quietly need to lend a little thought for the purpose of getting our opinion as near to right as damn it, to just what the nature of these offences that these convictions have been found for are. We don't know, do we?
No.
When you read that a man is a rapist, okay, you've got a reasonable idea of what the crime was, but not a clear idea of the individual crime of the individual person who has been convicted of rape, which is actually under law what they are. They're not a rapist, that's just journalism, all right? And similarly with a paedophile or a child sex offender, you know, it's a person who has a conviction for something which is quite rightly outlawed. But the range of that activity, I would imagine, and I'm not an expert, and do we really want to think about it? Yes, if we're going to have strong opinions. Yes, if we're going to be part of lynch mobs. Yes, if we're going to terrify ourselves in the wee small hours, go through red lights. I mean, I say to my juniors on a Saturday morning, the football club, I say to all the parents, pick-up time is 11 o'clock. But if you find yourself 5 minutes late, do not go through red lights. We will always be here until the last child is successfully collected. And that's because of the nightmare that parents have of their children being alone for 30 seconds of any day. That's what has been done to us by the profile that these crimes get, which aren't being committed now any more than they were 100 years ago.
So what do you think of this thing for naming them then? That they're going...
Well, it hasn't worked, has it?
No, I've got to say I actually don't agree with that, and I don't agree with the lynch mobs.
How would it have worked? What was it supposed to do?
I can't see what it would do other than generate bad feeling in any area where and lynch mobs, which I don't agree with. I think that's completely the wrong way to go about it.
If you have an unusual sexuality, then just like people who have what's called a normal sexuality, you are drawn to people with the same sexuality as yourself. And one of the things that I know the authorities have tried very hard to keep tabs on are these so-called rings of people who are involved in antisocial sexual activity or unlawful sexual activity in this case. All right? I would have thought that one of the things that may happen when all these names are published is that these people who like anybody else, will feel that they want to be able to talk to somebody or shelter with somebody who's going to understand them, are going to be drawn together because now they're going to know where they can find each other. Isn't that a possibility?
Yes,
the whole thing's very a flawed piece of thinking, isn't it?
Somebody, I don't know, somewhere. I mean, it doesn't appear to me it's been that anybody's really sat down and really tried to put, I don't know what you call it, the best brains together to really start to work through some possibilities of better ways to deal with it.
Well, okay. Let me ask this question then. Do we need that? Do we really need that? Do we really need to disrupt enormously, at huge expense, do we really need a massive program of reorganisation to deal with something which, thank God, only happens once in a blue moon?
Well, the way I feel about it, Tommy, is that what you have to look at here is I think we've been slightly drawn away from the subject. What we're sort of getting into a little bit is, I suppose we've gone towards the people's sexuality thing, which and the way they lean and the way they are, and I appreciate that is without any shadow of doubt some of the makeup of the people that do these things. But I think what we have to look at here is these most dangerous people, they seem to get released at some point in time, and they are released unannounced and unknown to the people that live there. And how many times do we read that somebody has reoffended These are the things that concern me. Not the people who can keep a lid on what they do or do what they do in private but don't hurt anyone but tend to have a funny preference that goes one way or another. They're not the dangerous people. If they're keeping a lid on what they're doing, then we don't need to know about it if they're not actually committing a crime. What concerns me is when you have people who have committed a crime and they go through a period of rehabilitation, and I wouldn't doubt for a minute that a great deal of them con the system into believing that they're reformed, and then we read that they've reoffended, and when it involves a child losing a life, it doesn't matter if it is once in a blue moon. That's one time too much. And that's the thing that I feel needs looking at.
I can't see what looking at it is going to achieve. I think you'll find that it's going to be almost impossible without throwing away keys. The throwing away of keys, the locking them up and the throwing away of keys. And you may decide that that's what you think should happen, but then again I would ask you, in the case of exactly what? All sex offences? All sex offences involving underage children? I mean,
I think we have to start there. You have to start with children. If you've committed a sexual offence against a child...
All right, which football team do you support if you listen to Talksport? Which football team do you support?
The greatest team in the land.
Which is?
Gillingham.
All right, I merely get you onto... You see, I'm not going to dwell on it, but only recently somebody connected with football spent time in prison because they committed a sexual offence, and the age of the person was the matter in question. Now, go away and think about that one.
Not the same, Tommy.
No. You say not the same.
It's not the same.
No, wait a second. Excuse me. It is exactly what you're talking about. It is exactly what you're talking about.
No, I disagree with you.
No. You're disagreeing with yourself.
I don't need to think about that.
No, wait. You're disagreeing with yourself.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I don't think you understand my argument.
Oh, I don't think you do. I don't think you do, because I don't think you understand the complexities of the range of offences that you're lumping together.
No, I do agree with you. I think you've drawn my attention to a lot of things that have, if you like, triggered little lights in me and made me think, OK, that needs a little bit of thinking about, and that I appreciate. But I don't think, and I know the case that you're talking about, I don't think that is the same.
No, of course it isn't, and that's my point. That is my point. I've made my point with you, because that is not the same. I agree with you that's not the same. Of course it's not the same.
If your point is there are lots and lots of differences, and how do you
before you're going to carry anybody with you in your thinking, anybody with intellect in your thinking, then you've got to be able to be clear about, and I personally wouldn't want to do the research, but you have got to be clear about exactly which offenders and which offences you believe should find it very, very difficult, if not impossible, and you would need to clothe those notions in precise wording, very, very difficult, or actually impossible, ever to be released.
But do you never do anything about it either? Do you just accept that it's...
No, you need those things if you're going to feel strongly about this. If you want to take, if you believe that you can campaign and change the way in which the law is, or the law is the law is acted out, then you need that level of thinking. But I would say this to you, as a dad, and I'm sure you do this. Do what I try and do. Remember that we take all these precautions. The simple truth is, thank God and touch wood, it will never happen.
Exactly.
So don't torture yourself too much.
No,
don't think about what happened 3 weeks ago too much, although how can we not?
Tommy, I know there's other people who want to go, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Drive on, drive safely. In Harrow, what's your problem, Martin?
Hi, I've got a friend who's very calm and collected when he's out driving, and every time I turn the radio on, I hear you, and you're a load of nonsense! You're a load of crap! You shouldn't be allowed on the bleeding radio!
Here, Tom.
Yes, Doug.
He didn't call you a nonce, did he, or something?
No, it's all right. He calls from time to time. It's the cabaret does.
Yeah, I wouldn't like him... Martin, I wouldn't like you in front of me, or behind me, or alongside me, to be honest. I think I'd pull into the curb and turn off and have a rest.
Now, let's see how long he can keep going.
Puts his foot on the brakes. He wants his head slapping, because he's dangerous. He should watch where he's going.
Yeah, go on, mate.
No,
go
no,
on.
he's fine. He's a little piece of cabaret, he
Yeah,
does.
he is, yeah. It's not Steve Wright out of work, is it? Mr. Angry, do you remember him?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was quite a good effort, Martin. Well done. It was about
Yeah.
43 seconds, which is not your record, so you're probably a bit flawed there by being put through to somebody else. But Doug, thank you for your call.
All right, cheers, Tom.
And your kind work and words. 08700 40 50 60 is the number. I'm Tommy Boyd, and this is Talksport.
The one-to-one.
I'm Hackney. Sam, welcome to Talksport.
Mine is 10 inches, and your wife loves it. Bitch.
If only you knew the truth. Bless her cottons. She does giggle when she hears those guys. Let's go to Nick. I think anybody's going to make the argument that music today is anything like as good as music was towards the end of the 70s or in the middle of the 60s when it was, it really meant
Jimi Hendrix. Ron Harvey is gay. By me, I'm Robbie.
we all feel like doing that from time to time. You can be stood talking to your not your bank manager. You can be stood talking to somebody at the bus stop. You're standing at the bus stop, say, right? And after a moment, there's a few spots of rain, and you turn to the woman next to you, and you sort of say, I thought it would rain. And she'll go something like, yes, although they didn't actually say so. And you realise almost straight away, okay, that you're not going to be able to sustain the conversation because you're into an area where the other person is obviously clearly superior to you. She cares about the weather, and you actually don't. You're only being friendly. And yet you know that until the bus comes, you are sucked in to a Mrs. Talbot conversation. And about 90 seconds into it, because she will have gone on then about how the BBC weather forecasts always tend to suggest that the weather is going to be worse than it is, because she happens to know that they get lots of serious complaint letters if they say it's going to be fine and it isn't, whereas they never get any complaint letters if they say that it's going to rain and it doesn't. So they tend to err on the side of saying it's going to be wetter than it is. Anyway, you're there having this conversation and realising that you're way out of your depth, just like Geezer did there, you see. And we all want to go, help, and run down the street. Chucking things. Not at anybody, but just chucking things. Of course we can't. Well, we don't. We could do. But we'd miss our bus, so we don't. But on the other hand, 08700 40 50 60. Nobody can come round in the night and put a bat up your nightie. And if it's what you got to do, you got to do. But just remember, if you're not quite up to it, you probably will end up feeling like doing it. Because I'm pretty good.
To you.
Tom, hi.
I'm about to ask you a question, Tommy.
Okay.
If you were to cut a live fish in half, would it feel any pain? Is that a silly question, or?
I would have thought it would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's my opinion. The reason I'm asking you this is I was listening to Talksport on Monday night. I was listening to James Whale, and he was talking to the chap who does the fishing program on the Saturday morning, Keith Arthur. And they were both going hammer and tongs at each other. It was really, it was good radio. But I just wondered where you stood on this issue.
On which issue?
Well, on whether it hurts fish.
What hurts fish? Cutting them in half?
Well,
who does that? Who cuts fish in half?
Well, I'm probably being a bit overdramatic,
isn't it?
Overdramatic. I mean, if you stuck a hook in their lip or jaw, whatever it is.
I can't think it does them any good.
No.
But there are worse things going on in the world to worry about. That's my view. I mean, you can't worry about everything that might hurt.
No.
Otherwise, you would never. I mean, for example, you want to worry about living things, okay?
Yeah.
Do sperm have rights?
No.
Why not?
I don't. I've never really thought about it. I just assume that
exactly. But now I'm giving you something else to worry about.
Yeah, but fish are bigger than sperm, aren't they?
Oh, so it's a sizes thing, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's disgraceful that you should be so uncaring Yeah, as to be a sizist when it comes to animal
Well,
rights.
you can't even see sperm, can you, with the naked eye? So.
That doesn't mean they're not there. That doesn't mean they don't have thoughts. They might have feelings.
Wow.
What do you mean, wow?
Have you studied this in great detail, have you?
Of course.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you got a thesis on it? And
My thesis involves making sure that people who've got strong opinions, right, have got other opinions. Now, this is easy.
I haven't got a strong opinion about it. I just wanted to hear your opinion about it.
Yeah, I know, but we know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You think that fishing, you're concerned about...
It's nasty and barbaric.
Fine, okay. That's an easy one, but then, you know, where does it stop?
Yeah.
Do you think that every sperm, therefore, is sacred? Because that's a living thing. It looks a bit like a fish. How do you know it hasn't got a nervous system? It must have a nervous system.
I've never really seen a sperm, so I can't really comment on it.
That's not any good, is it? You know that it's a living thing because it can die.
Yeah.
It's got a purpose. It swims.
But most of them die anyway, don't they? I mean, there's only, one gets through...
Ah, but you kill them.
Who kills them?
You do.
Do I? I personally kill them with something, do I?
Yes.
What do I kill them with?
Whenever you ejaculate, and not every single one of your sperms turns into a baby.
That's not my fault.
It might not be your fault, but you can prevent it happening.
What, by not ejaculating?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right, mate. Nice to talk to you.
Well, I know you didn't ask for a fight, but you got one, didn't you?
Well, in a way, I suppose, yeah.
And this sizes thing, you need to watch that.
Why?
Well, because when I went to Africa once, everybody was going on about how wonderful the elephants were.
Yeah.
And everybody was taking pictures of every elephant that moved in this Land Rover. And then a moth got in, and everybody screamed. And this bloke squashed the moth. And I looked at this moth and all its juice all over the wooden metal floor of the Land Rover, and I thought, if that moth was 18 feet across, we'd be paying big bucks to go and see it. And we'd be handing over our money in the high street, lest it became an endangered species. But because it's little, we tread on it. So, I mean, it's just not thought through, is it? It's the thing, sizeism, and sizeism exists in every walk of human activity, doesn't it really? My football manager's going around buying every big midfield player he can. There's this new concept going around in football, wanting players who fill their shirts. Yeah. And he's desperate to get a centre forward who's more than 6'3". You know. 08700 40 50 60. Nothing compared to the tears of woe if the West Indies are going down the pan. To David, who's on the M40. David, you're on Talksport.
Hi.
Hi, David.
That chap that just phoned up about chopping a fish in half while it was alive. I've done that.
Go on, my son.
It was bloody hilarious.
That's a very good mad laugh. Go on, my son. Give us one more. Go on, one more. All right, that'll do it, or you get a sore throat.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That'll do it. You get a sore throat. 08700 40 50 60.
You know what I mean?
Well, what I've found travelling the world a bit, Paul, is that when you spend time in other countries, you come to recognise that the identities that you thought those nationalities had were actually just a cliche that are convenient in in our popular culture, in sitcoms and in casual sort of low caliber journalism. You go to Spain and they're not all eating paella all day long and going toro at the bullfight. You get you get the whole range of society that you get in this country. And you get that the world over. You get winners and losers, you get nice guys, and you get what's it names, and you get reactionaries, and you get liberals, you get you get the works.
Yeah, but
Islam trade. Be aware. Zanshin, the Japanese concept of Zanshin, ultimate awareness. To know what the warrior behind you is about to do, because not only can you read his thoughts, you can see into his soul. How can anybody not? Again, I mean, I can quote Bertrand Russell, who said this, how can anybody not change their mind when, with all the new information that's coming out, we're finding out new things about everything, all the time. You just got to be able to change your opinion. It's just such a ludicrous thing to spend your life in possession of 2.5 opinions, and to spend your life then hunting the tidbits of information which support you in the holding of those opinions, rather than be able to say, well, do you know what I came across the other day? It was this, this, and this, and that means that I've had to change what I've said about so and so down there. Well, I changed my views on. I used to be a very, very, very committed vegetarian. For democracy, when we're beginning to realise, all of us together, that it is as fundamentally flawed as it is, because it just gives any old bod the vote, regardless, and their vote is just as big as yours. It's all wrong. It has to be all wrong. Graham's on the line from Bradford. Graham, welcome to Talksport.
Hi.
Hello, Graham.
Hi. I was talking about the royal family.
The royal family.
I think it's been a wonderful day today about the Queen Mother. It's been wonderful watching it on the TV.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I think she's a great ambassador for the country.
You're talking my language, Reggie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful day.
Yeah, I knew you were up to something, didn't I, pal? And I got you because you thought I was going to bite, and I didn't. I got you. I murdered you. I just died in the war. You know why? Because you were poor. Very, very poor. It was so obvious that you weren't who you were pretending to be, that the easiest thing in the world was to knock you into the water. Pathetic, weak, poor, very poor, very poor. No, look, I don't mind people if they want to pretend to have some kind of an argument. To have an argument, that's great. That's cleansing. That's sport. That's sport. Because half the guys who put on Manchester United shirts, right, they care far less about Manchester United than any of the 49,000 Manchester United fans in the stadium, or 200,000 Manchester United fans in this country, or 10 million Manchester United fans around the world. But they'll play their heart out for the fun of it and for the money of it. But they're not dyed-in-the-wool Manchester United people. And the same thing goes with, phoning and having an argument. You're going to have to be an awful lot better than that if you're going to pretend you believe something. And you want to make some programming out of it. Nice idea, though. Try it. Try calling a show and arguing the very opposite of what you've always believed. Let's go to Phil, who calls from Leeds. Phil, you're on Talksport.
Hello, Tommy. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Already?
My first point is, it's a very minor swear word. Am I allowed to get away with it?
Well, I don't know.
It begins with A, and it preempts my point, and it's royal family, my arse.
Okay, fine.
If you understand what I'm saying is, I live in a council estate. That last job's just been on, and what I'm trying to say is, it's such a different world that we live in one part of Britain to another. We have such a problem, and I live in the council estate in Leeds, where drugs problem, when I was a lad, it were a case of, it were idiots that were involved in drugs. It were glue in the early 80s, gas, later 80s, but now it seems like every third door in the council estate is dealing or is using drugs. And Tony Blair is doing absolutely not about it.
I'm all ears.
Sorry, it just went quiet. I thought
I know, it was a massive leap from painting a picture with all the touch and finesse of Dickens, and then suddenly, and Tony Blair's doing Now About It. That's not true. We've got a drugs czar. And you go, what can you do? I mean,
but the drug czar lives in a different part of the country to where things are going on. And
well, where does he live then?
They don't live in council estates for a start. You know as well as I do that they don't. I mean, Tony, I've reported certain people in the estate and I've given them examples, and I've asked them, you know, what they're saying to me is without proof. If there's not the police there to get the proof...
Hang on. Let's work this one out quickly, shall we then? First of all right, you've got to explain why it's a bad thing what they're doing.
Who's doing?
What the people who are doing drugs are doing.
Why is it a bad thing?
You see, if you can't explain why they shouldn't be doing it, then all you've done is jumped on a bandwagon.
No, Tony. Tony, sorry, I'm thinking Tony Blair. Listen, what I'm saying is, when I was a lad, right, and I said, I'm a lad from Yorkshire, I play rugby league. When I was a lad, we had a drink, you know. I want whiter than white, you know. I've probably got one conviction in my life, and I learnt by that conviction. But there's no police about now, like there were when I was a kid. You know, you couldn't do what kids are doing now. They're hanging around in gangs of 30 and 40, and there was supposed to be this...
How much did you drink when you were a rugby league player?
No, I still play rugby now.
Well, how much do you drink now?
I'll go out and I'll if I'm with lads, I'll probably have, I don't know, 7 to 10 pints, and it's a good night.
How long have you been doing that?
2 or 3 nights a week for, well, probably twice a month.
For how long?
Well, I'm 31 now. I started drinking when I was probably 15.
So you've been getting seriously drunk?
Yeah.
Twice a week for 15 years?
Yeah. So, you know, what I'm saying to you is, I'm coming across like I'm totally against everything. I'm not. Anything in moderation is fine. But when you see what these kids are up to when they're off their head, you know, it's not right, Tommy. You live in a council estate and you see it's every second or third door down the road. And there's decent people trying to live their lives in the car. And you phone the police, and the police, for example, my next door neighbour but one's got a problem with the
why do they do it?
Why does who do it?
Why do the kids do what they do?
Because...
Why do you get out of your face twice a week?
Well, out of my face. 7 to 10 pints is out of my face?
Yep.
Well, it sounds like... I know what it sounds like I'm coming across like, but... I'm 17
Why do you do it? Why do you do it? Analyse yourself. Tell me why you need to get out of your face twice a week.
Out of my face? I don't think I'm getting out of my face.
Why do you need to get drunk twice a week?
I don't need to. It's a pleasurable thing.
Why do you then?
It's a pleasurable thing.
You're avoiding the question.
It relaxes me.
Okay. It relaxes you from what?
Nothing in particular. And I understand, you know, you're trying to analyse me on air, and I understand why you're trying to do that. For argument's sake, but...
No, it's not for argument's sake at all. It's not for argument's sake at all. You're condemning other people for doing a different version of something that you do casually on a regular basis.
Right. You can talk psychobabble all you want.
It's not psychobabble, mate. It's not psychobabble. It's not psychobabble. If you...
listen to this statement.
No. Excuse me. You've gone on, and I want to pin you down because you're condemning other people.
You can cut me off any time you want, but let me make this statement.
I will not let you make a statement.
You make your statement.
I will ask you a question. I've asked you it already, and you didn't even try to answer
I'll answer it. What you say now.
No, you just try and answer the question.
Go on, then.
What is the difference between what they're doing, and there are differences,
right,
you tell me what is the difference between their motivation for getting out of what their lives are like and your motivation for getting out of what your life is like.
I will answer you now, right?
Yeah.
The difference is, between me and them, is I work, I pay for myself.
That's not the question, excuse me. That is not the question. That's not the question. I can't, there's no point you giving an answer to a question I haven't asked you.
It's a difference.
There is no point you giving an answer to a question I haven't asked you. If I ask you what the price of tomatoes is, do not tell me how much a Reliant Renault is.
You know, if you let me answer, let me answer.
Will you answer the question?
Yeah.
Then let me ask the question again. What is the difference between the motivation of those youngsters for getting out of their lives and your motivation for getting out of your life?
The motivation is the fact that they have got nothing in their lives more important to keep them more occupied. I've got a job and I pay for my own drink. They're out stealing. They're out robbing cars.
Let's come back to it, because you still haven't answered it. Do you understand the question?
Yeah, go on then.
What is the question? You tell me what you think the question is, and then we'll know whether you're in command of the question. What do you think the question is that I'm asking you?
The question you're asking, which is different to the point that I'm making, but I'll acknowledge what you're saying is the motivation. I'm not talking about the motivation. I'm talking about the problems that's caused therein.
Do you understand the question I'm asking?
I understand the question you're asking.
Then tell me what the question is.
Tommy, I appreciate the question.
Tell me what it is then, because I don't believe you.
The question that you're asking...
I think you're hoping that by saying you understand the question, I'll move on.
I think you're going to move on. But the point that you're trying to put...
You're condemning a group of people who want to get out of their lives, and they use drugs to do that. And yet you yourself are somebody who finds your own...
I don't want to get out of my life. I don't want to get out of my life.
Well, then why do you get off your face twice a week?
I enjoy a drink.
Yeah, you get out of your face.
I don't get out.
Twice a week.
I enjoy a drink.
Yeah, you get out of your face.
I don't get out of my face.
You do, you get drunk.
I don't get out of my face.
7 to 10 pints is drunk. Don't dispute that.
I'm not disputing that, but I don't get out of my face.
But what you want to do is anaesthetise yourself to something. What?
I anaesthetise myself because I enjoy it. I enjoy the feeling.
But what is it you are anaesthetising yourself from?
It's not a matter of from.
No.
It is absolutely not a matter of from.
Have you ever taken drugs?
I've smoked cannabis.
Is that what the kids are doing?
Well, cannabis, yeah, I agree that on a basic level that fundamentally it heals, it relaxes, and in that situation,
look, mate, can you not answer? If I'm interested in finding out, right? When I ask you if that's what the drug is that the kids are doing, it's no point saying...
No, that's not the drug that's causing the problem.
Well, why didn't you answer that when I asked you the question in the first place?
Probably our defensive.
Yeah. And muddled.
Possibly.
Why don't you go and talk to the youngsters? Why don't you tell them that they've got a drugs problem just like you've got a drink problem?
Well, you call it a drink problem. I understand that if that's what you want to analyse it.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you go and talk to them?
I see my drinking as healthy. No, that's wrong. That's the wrong word. I shouldn't have used that word. But I'm out socialising with that team.
They've got just
we
the
have a
same.
good laugh.
They've got just the same.
Yeah, but they're stealing to get there. They're stealing, though.
They've got just the same justifications.
What? No.
Because we all justify.
Justification.
Yeah.
You can say justification, but they haven't got the means to pay for it.
We all justify our vices to ourselves. You do. I do. They do.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.